Hey everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Rising Convert Experience podcast. It's your host Kelly, and I'm excited to dive into another episode with y'all. As you know, this podcast is a space and place where I talk all things about my personal experience as a Muslim convert and revert. It's a place where we hold candid conversations from a Muslim perspective and just have discussions around things that maybe we are not hearing a lot about. So stay tuned with what we got going on today, as I will be talking about my experience going to the Majlis, what it's like. As a Muslim convert revert, I feel like there's always an easy way out to say, what's the point? Why are we going? I don't understand it. These are literally things that I've even said to myself, like it's not even worth my time. And really, when I think about it, in big picture now as a Muslim convert mama, it's a whole different thing. But even as someone who was already always looking for a sense of community, a sense of belonging at a Muslim community mosque, it's always so difficult because language is such a big barrier when it comes to entering this religion, or I guess believing in this religion to some extent, because it is a thing for us. Like as a Muslim convert revert, I've had multiple conversations with other people similar to me where it's just the language is always the thing that kind of stops us from feeling that deep connection, especially when we know that there's stuff out there that we can listen, tune into, and turn to online. And I know the experience isn't the same, which is why I feel like I've always been the person that wants to seek out like what's out there that's English. And so actually, I got to give a shout out to Muslim Youth in Motion. This is a mosque Muslim community, Shia community that is out in Surrey, BC, which is originally where I am born and raised from. And I got to experience going to the Majlis, the lectures that they host there. And it's really evolved. It's quite big now, mashallah, and it's in English. And the whole thing that is set out, especially during the month of Ashura, where there's like this event that we're talking and feeling a deep connection with Imam Hussain, alayhi salam. Or I guess it is a time where I really did feel like I can really mourn and be a part of something greater and bigger, because when I attended those events there at that mosque, I can understand everything. I can actually put all the pieces together, everything that I'm learning. It was just so easy to, just kind of just go in and attend and not feel like I'm actually participating in something versus just kind of being there and just what feels like I'm just kind of floating, like on autopilot. Like I'm taking my body there, but like my soul and conscious isn't really there. Like it's just like, it feels almost like an out of a body experience when you go to a place where you don't understand what's happening, which is a big part of what I also did experience and continue to experience as a Muslim convert. So this episode is all about taking my child to Ashura, what that was like 2025. So, I have my child. She's a little older now. So my husband and I, we've always had this conversation that we want to take our child. We want to, at a certain age, we want to be able to make it work. We want this to be a big part of their lives. And here are 3 points to why we want that. First one is building that emotional and spiritual connection. We truthfully do believe, like, how I experienced and like how he experiences it, that being part of that atmosphere, the love, the grief, and the remembrance of that tragedy that happened in Karbala, the love and the emotional deep connection that we share with Imam Hussain alayhi salam and the Ahl Bayt, this is a big part of like what we believe in as Shia Muslims. So therefore, I feel like that is the thing that we are wanting to instill in our children in the earliest moments and memories that they are building with their faith. And so like me, like I just talked about earlier, like I feel the most connected when I'm in it. And so my child right now, she's learning all 3 languages, like English, Arabic, and Spanish. And inshallah, God willing, she will continue to pick up these 3 languages, at home, in different places. And so this is one of those environments where she gets to see things. It was actually quite wonderful because she was able to see how some of the kids who were participating in the mosque and in the event, like how they were helping and how they were kind of making things like art pieces to showcase and, for us to see. So she was able to see that, which was very cool. And so that's one of the first points that makes us want to take our child to Ashura. And then the second one is normalizing the faith practice of this time of Ashura, like what it means, what it signifies, and the community belonging. I don't really fully get the community belonging part, but it is something that my husband talks a lot about. And I think as a born Muslim, he has his own experience, lived experience around what that feels like when you grow up as a child with your friends or make friends with people at the mosque. And even to this day, he's very interconnected, like his family is. And, he knows people from many years ago and families and whatnot. And so there's a sense of belonging there, but also the cultural aspect as well, which is separate from the religious part, but still, like, there's a sense of comfort and belonging there. And so you see people who are like you, people who have the similar background as you, and these norms. And so I feel like it kind of just brings everything more together because of the rituals that are like stemmed around like the Islamic practice, and with what the mosque does and with the cultural part as well. Like, it all kind of comes together, and it is very beautiful for our child to experience that. So even though I don't really feel that community belonging like 9 out of 10 times, I think just, again, the normalizing the faith practice and it still being a big part of my daughter's life, I don't want her to miss out on that. So we don't want her to miss out on that, actually. So that's the second point. And then the third point is actually planting seeds for like a lifelong learning. I always talk about like how as a born Muslim, you will have things that have been set out for you from like the moment that you are born, because you have the practice around you. You are seeing people make dua. You are seeing people dress a certain way. You have these gatherings. There's a sense of spark of curiosity that will probably come earlier on because you're exposed to it at a younger age, versus someone like myself where, who chose this religion, who chooses to continue to learn and, like I said, seek out places and spaces where I can continue to learn and understand and feel more connected to my faith. It's different, but for our child, it doesn't have to be. And so we want her to, learn Arabic. We want her to hear the stories of Imam Hussain, hear the stories of why we use this time to commemorate Imam Hussain and those lost ones alongside him, and what Ashura actually means. And so I feel like it really does open the doors, the preliminary doors of like, what does this actually signify as a Muslim as she continues to grow, inshallah. And so for them, it just also is another way to show that like Islam is an experience. It's a life experience. It's something that we always have to continuously explore. And yeah, like my husband and I, we always talk about too, like, we do want to be people and parents that encourage and lead our child to go to mosques and to take part and to be close to people who believe in similar things as them. Now, it doesn't have to be the exact same thing, and I'm not saying we don't invite diversity in our home, because we definitely do, and it's definitely a big part of my side of the family. But there is something that is said within like the Quran as well. It's like, when a man and woman come together, like they make babies, essentially. I'm forgetting the word. I can't. But anyways, like, we're intended to create, and Allah says like there is something beautiful in being able to create a child and to give birth to our child. And whatever Allah decides to give us, the idea is like we continue to strengthen and grow as Muslims and as people who want to bring goodness into the world and do good in the world as Muslims. And the way we can do that is by strengthening ourselves through numbers. And so I do feel like by having our child be surrounded by people who want to learn and are learning the same things as her, especially during this time of the year, Islamic calendar, like Ashura, Muharram, it's very important. And so like my experience now, that I've said these 3 points of like going to Ashura, I have to say, like, it wasn't very easy. I'm like definitely shuffling around with my hijab here, but it definitely wasn't as easy because we actually had conversations of like, okay, baby's nap time, how are we going to make this work? Like, what is this going to look like? Because I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to nap time. I feel like I've become a little more flexible, but those of you who know like what Ashura looks like and how the nights can be so long, and how loud everything can be, it can be very overwhelming for a toddler, and it can also be a lot for parents to manage. And so the way this majlis, this lecture took out for the 10 days was that there was an English portion, or there was Quran, there was an English portion, and then there's like an intermission where some of the kids from the mosque will present something, and then after we'll move into the Arabic, which is fairly longer than the English, and then there's the latmiye. And so my husband and I, we like set out a plan where I was going to have baby toddler be with him for the English portion, and then she would come down to me. And initially it like worked out well until my little one got so comfortable to the point where I think she wanted to go to the playroom now. She's just kind of wanted to walk around and wander. And it's a lot to like handle and navigate a little child's like feelings and emotions. And then sometimes like I just ended up being in the playroom for longer, and I wasn't even listening into the Arabic majlis. Not that again that I understood anything, but just even being able to just try to be present during the lecture. There's moments where I was like stepping outside, and I did spend most of the evening outside. There's moments where like I tapped out because I was like, what is the point? Again, like these thoughts, these words like definitely have come out of my mouth, but I always try to remind myself like this is definitely a challenge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has out for me, and I always try to like find like the actual purpose of like why it is that I'm here. Like, why am I doing this? What is the actual point? Because that initial like question that comes up of does anyone even care? Like, does my daughter even care if we keep coming? Like, these thought process can be so, their initial responses to like how we're feeling when we're in the dark room and we don't know anybody and we don't really understand what's happening. Sometimes we have minimal support with like the toddler, and sometimes it's just not working out for you. Toddlers may be like reacting in a way that's just not fun for like one of the parents, and then it's like sometimes even too like when there was moments where my husband and I would like go back into the car and we're like, how was it? We would debrief, and it was just like always like a fresh of breath air when we're like, okay, it's finally over. Like, we can go home now. And we try really hard to not think like that, but sometimes it's what it can feel like when you're going through the night and you feel like you're in survival mode. It can really take away from like what it actually means and what the actual purpose of Ashura is. And I think just reminding myself that the results, inshallah, the goal, inshallah, that we're trying to achieve is going to be achieved later down the road. We're not going to see results from our child, having the practice or knowing about the Ashura now because she's still a baby. She doesn't understand everything, but she's seeing things. She will pick up on things. And so, inshallah, over the years, we will see what we're seeking out for our family, for our little one. But I think, like, it's just as a Muslim convert weaver, it's something that I always want to bring voice to. Like, it's not as easy as everyone says, like, oh, you can just go and you can make it happen. Absolutely, we can make it happen. Like, the nap thing, like I said before, I'm a bit of a stickler, but I tend to, like, be a bit more flexible when things are important and we want to make it work. So we made it work. We adjusted her nap time, her bedtime, and like, alhamdulillah, like, it's something that like she's so good with. Like, who knows what the future kids, inshallah, may bring. But like, she was so good, so we were able to work with her and keep her happy and keep ourselves happy, and so that was fine. But that's not like the whole point as well. Like, as for when someone tells you like, oh, you can just make it happen and it's easy. It's not as easy. Sometimes too, like, you can't help but feel like you're taken away, or your toddlers may be distracting or taking someone away from their own experience that they want to have. And so I always want to be respectful and try to conduct us in a place and space where there's others who are there, in a way that's respectful, and that's also, being mindful of like their experience and why they're here. Because it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And the other thing too, again, kind of not being able to understand anything for like 45 minutes to almost like an hour, it can be really tough, to just be like, oh, like, you don't have to do much. Like, you can just sit and wait. It's so easy for someone who understands the language to say that, but if you're not like in someone's shoes like mine, the actual mental process of having to just almost like withstand like what's going on, and it does feel like that, like you have to almost like really push through like the loudness, the ruckus that's happening in like the kids' playroom, your toddler like just kind of going everywhere, making sure they're safe, making sure that they feel entertained. And then there's also like you're just kind of basically sitting there waiting for, your husband, or for this, I don't know, I guess like the lecture to completely come to an end. It can feel like forever. And so there's a mental component to it as well. And then put that on top, like, so that's one part, but then put another thing where you were now feeling super anxious because you don't know anybody and you don't belong. Now, I don't have that same experience because I have my family, like my in-laws and my sister-in-laws and her family, like we all go to the same mosque, and so I do have that sense of comfort. But now just imagine if there's a Muslim convert weaver who has like walked in and doesn't know anybody, and then you're just kind of like there. It can be so tough to want to stay all the way through, when you don't know what to do, where to go, and if like there's a language barrier with like some of, or if not most of the people that are attending. So there is a mental component along with like a physical and emotional part that can be very draining when you are taking a toddler with you and you're trying to make it work. But anyways, I wanted to share this experience because I do think that there is a way, again, to make it happen, in a way where you can also bring peace and harmony in your life, along with like your husband's life and in your child's life. And the things that helped us is, number one, having a conversation beforehand. So that was my husband and I were like, as Ashura was creeping up, we're like, what are we going to do? What's the plan? Like, what are his goals? What is his vision? What are mine? And then the second thing is coming up with a bit of like a temporary, or I guess like plan of, how the night may go and like what we're going to do with the child. And then thirdly, I think after the first or second day of going, we debriefed, and we like started talking about like what's working, what's not working, like how do we want to do this? Is he okay if some days like I can't go and he has to go alone? We even talked at one point if like we should go in separate cars where I just go for the English and I come back. We talked about like how, our toddler's behaving and how we want to kind of go ahead and navigate that. So we talked about many things after like, I think it was like the second day of like going. And so that debrief is very important. And then thirdly, just also making sure that like your child is okay. It's almost like preparing yourself for going on a flight. That's how I see it. Like, you want to make sure you have all the bases covered. I made sure that she was well fed before we went. She had a good meal. I made sure that she had multiple different types of snacks in her bag. I had made sure that she had a few different random toys in there and books, so that way she can like read and do whatever. I also made sure that like, kind of like the plane, like where the sweet spots are, like if you've been to the mosque. If not, like know by day one, just kind of like ask like, where's the kids' room? Where can I go? Where's the bathroom? Just like knowing all like your exits because it really knowing where everything is and it's like in clear sight. But yeah, like I just made sure I had everything set up, and like water was like a big one too, because I always get dehydrated and she gets dehydrated because it can be so hot in there with all the bodies in the room. But anyways, these are things that helped us, supported us in being able to attend this monumental time of Muharram. And I hope, inshallah, like this perspective, my story can help you with what you got going on. If you are someone who is listening to this podcast and curious to know about like how Ashura like is like, or what it means, and as a new Muslim, maybe if you're listening to this, I will send a link or put a link in the description box, and you can take a look at that, and you can learn more about Imam Hussain alayhi salam and Ahl Bayt and what happened in Karbala and why it's so meaningful for us Shia Muslims. But anyways, yeah, as a mama, Muslim convert, the last thing I want to say is that I do take huge responsibility in being able to instill these practices in my child, because I feel like that is something that I need to do, and that is required of me as someone who is leading someone's life. And additionally, I also feel like, as much as I may have felt like there's moments where I'm like, you know, I could just go somewhere else, or I can just watch a video, I feel like things have really shifted for me a little bit more, in the sense that I want to do more things because I have a child. Like, subhanAllah, like it's almost like Allah has sent me some more strength to find that deeper connection through my child. Like it's just, yeah, like, and my husband too, like, you know, and even we both struggle. We both did struggle in some of those nights. But we always say like, alhamdulillah, because, you know, we did it, and Allah gave us the strength emotionally, physically, mentally to you know, to attend as many nights as we could, and to do what we need to do as Muslim parents. So gonna end it with that. Let me know what your experience is like whenever you take your kids to the mosque. What do you do? What are some tips to help you? If you were someone who's also gone to Ashura with your toddler, your baby, your children, what is it like? What mosque do you go to? Put them in the comments. I would love to check them out, especially if you're in Alberta area. Let me know. Anyways, take care, everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.